President Joe Biden is planning to nominate Dr. Monica Bertagnolli as the new director of the National Institutes of Health. Now, Democratic presidential nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr. slammed the move for Bertagnolli's ties to Pfizer, tweeting, "Here is the official announcement. I'm not shocked that they totally failed to mention the Pfizer connection, since, like most people, I've become accustomed to the government's routine manipulation of the public. But when I am president, I will set a different tone and standard. Honesty and transparency will be the new norm." And RFK Jr. referenced some other tweets saying, so the complicating factor here is, and this is according to him and this Twitter source he had, so this is all allegedly, that she in her previous roles as a doctor was the recipient of numerous Pfizer grants to conduct research. I can't vet whether the number they cited is true. I did some Googling, and there are press releases from Pfizer announcing grants that she is a part of, she gives quotes to. So it seems very likely to me there's underlying truth to it. Whether that number is exactly correct, I don't know. And further, I mean, because Pfizer is so massive and does so much lobbying and so much funding, and there's so much overlap with the NIH, frankly, it would be weird if she did not at some point had been involved in some funding relating to Pfizer, because it's that pervasive. Honestly, there's not going to be a person in a senior medical role in the federal government with no connection whatsoever to Pfizer. It would be impossible.
I suspect that is the case. Pfizer gives, I think, $40 million in grant money every year. It has an enormous amount of reach. And it's
which, by the way, I'm not excusing it at all. I'm just saying that is the reality.
The constant critique that I make of billionaire philanthropy, the influence of these kinds of multi-billion-dollar companies on our politics and our world. This is partly why. But it also does mean that I think that if RFK Jr. is going to make this kind of claim, it would be a stronger claim if he can actually show the links and the influence and give a sense of why she might make decisions that are not in the interest of the broader public, but instead in the interest of Pfizer as a company, because of her close relationship to the company, if one exists.
And look, a lot of this research seems like it was very much in the public interest. That what I've pulled up here is research on preventing breast cancer, or I don't know exactly, dealing with breast cancer in some way.
She did the moonshot stuff, right? Biden's moonshot cancer.
Yes, so that's all well and good, but then the question becomes then, once you enter government and you have the power to do things like advise whether a vaccine that Pfizer made is going to be added to some register where it's likely to be required for children, and it'll be harder to sue Pfizer for negligence, is in the back of your mind, or you think, well, I'm connected to them. I'm grateful to them for the partnership we conducted on that. Maybe it's all good, positive research that is in the best interest of everyone, but because of that connection and now the power she has as a government person, if it's just they're spending their money and you're receiving it and you're doing it, it's all voluntary and everything. But then when it enters the realm of government public policy is where it gets tricky, because they have the power to require things, to forbid things. They could forbid they could say no to funding other trials that other companies are working on.
Right.
They can, we've seen the tremendous impact that government policy has on the health sector with vaccines. Requiring or forbidding.
For sure.
Both directions.
Look, I'm glad that RFK Jr. has this kind of watchdog mentality, and that he seems to be very attuned to sniffing out corruption, conflicts of interest and the like. And I hope he continues to do so, whatever happens with this campaign. I also do think that stories like this and accusations like this are better when they're more substantiated and more reported out. And I say that because I think that he needs to also continue to bolster his credibility, given how many people want to dismiss him as a conspiracy theorist and a kook. And I am invested in having that credibility, and I think that having somewhat more reported out claims like this, instead of just kind of these tweeted out cursory connections based on a wealthy institution that has money all over the place and its fingerprints everywhere, I think would help to lend him credibility and empower him as both a candidate and as a public watchdog.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially if he is able to become a greater part of the mainstream dialogue, like you said, as Democrats, independents, people looking for some alternative to Joe Biden. The Biden campaign taking the standpoint that there is no one but Biden, there is no dissension in the ranks.
Yeah.
We're not going to do debates. Actually, we have some to discuss on that front.
So in other news, former Democratic presidential nominee had this to say about the DNC's decision to not hold primary debates. Let's watch.
I'm not as confident as a lot of people in Washington and the Democratic establishment seem to be that Joe Biden is going to do well against Donald Trump. It is a little bit concerning. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worrisome when you have a president that does have a record on the economy and other things that folks can be proud of, that he can be proud of, and yet you have him polling either right about tied in the margin of error with Trump or behind Trump in the ABC News Washington Post poll a few days ago. And that's related to concerns that Democrats and some independents have with the president, and something that his team has been unable to actually assuage the fears and the doubts that Democrats have. You cannot ignore the fact that more than half of Democrats in several polls over the last year have said that they wanted somebody other than Joe Biden to run. And right now, I think that the Democratic establishment is sort of trying to wipe that away, just sweep that under the rug. I'll give you a good example of that. The DNC, have a lot of respect for them, like a lot of the people there, but them deciding that there will be no primary, no debate. I think they actually need to give Joe Biden a chance to get out there and to show the American people what he can do, that he can run that campaign and, beat whoever runs in the primary, whoever those opponents are, even if it's just RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson.
Now, is what we're witnessing here Julian Castro's 2020 revenge arc? Because if you recall, he dropped out, I think, in January of 2020 after a debate in which he was one of the few, if only people, I think maybe Cory Booker said something about this as well, who called out Joe Biden for seemingly forgetting answers to questions he had just given on the debate stage. He said famously, "Are you forgetting what you said two minutes ago?" To Biden's face in the middle of the debate, and immediately after was off the stage and out of the American public consciousness.
Right. So he's correct to raise this concern because, as you point out, he raised it 4 years ago.
Exactly. He raised it 4 years ago. And also, it felt to some like there was retribution against him from this DNC. So here now he's calling out the DNC, who some people said back in 2020 changed the debate rules to get people off the stage. People like Marianne Williamson, who were the most Googled. She was the most Googled person after, I think, 2 of the debates that she participated in.
That was mostly me just Googling. Like, who is this?
And then very quickly, these people were exited from the stage, right? Tulsi Gabbard had her big anti-Kamala Harris moment.
Yank.
Exactly. So for many reasons, he has reasons to be upset here. One, because I think he raised a substantive, reasonable concern about Joe Biden. And 2, because he was punished for it by a DNC that has demonstrated its willingness to openly rig the Democratic primary. And I like also that he name-checked both Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr. as well. He didn't just say in the abstract there should be a debate. Even though both of those figures have gotten a lot of negativity from the mainstream media, he's willing to say, that the fact that these 2 candidates are considered to be fringe is not an excuse for why they should be marginalized from this process.
And their numbers are not fringe.
Correct.
Their numbers are big.
Correct.
But they're treated like they who will not be named.
Yeah, a combined nearly 30% of the electorate is polling for then the bulk, of course, 20% with RFK Jr.
Yeah, I think the point that Castro made there is very well taken, that there's reason to be concerned that Biden, even if you think his accomplishments are good, and look, there are a lot of voters who clearly do think his accomplishments were good because the Democrats and Biden had a very successful midterm, but can he make the case? How will he perform in a debate against Trump? He should at least use, even if he's going to, without any real problem, emerge as the Democratic nominee, which honestly I do expect to happen, then use it as debate prep. Actually engage what Marianne Williamson and what RFK Jr. are saying. Do the debate. It's not going to hurt his chances. It's not going to have any effect but make him a stronger and more formidable opponent when he does face down Trump or DeSantis.
Yeah.
There's no downside except one's ego, I guess.
No, so what some people have argued is that, there's this history of incumbents not having challengers, and that, they cherry pick these cases where they say, well, incumbents with challengers tend to lose. The counter argument is that there have been people with challengers, famously Donald Trump in 2016, who went on to win big, Obama in 2008. Very tough primary, went on to win big. Of course, those were not incumbents.
Sure.
So you can read the tea leaves on that and decide for yourself how much you think that that's dispositive. But this is, this is a special case. I think we actually do have the video of that moment between Julian Castro and Joe Biden. It's worth taking a look at again.
We owe a debt of gratitude to President Barack Obama. Of course, I also work for President Obama, Vice President Biden, and I know that the problem with your plan is that it leaves 10 million people uncovered. Now, on the last debate stage in Detroit, you said that wasn't true. When Senator Harris brought that up, there was a fact check of that, and they said that was true. I grew up with a grandmother who had type 2 diabetes, and I watched her condition get worse and worse. But that whole time, she had Medicare. I want every single American family to have a strong Medicare plan available. If they choose to hold on to strong, solid private health insurance, I believe they should be able to do that. But the difference between what I support and what you support, Vice President Biden, is that you require them to opt in. And I would not require them to opt in. They would automatically be enrolled. They wouldn't have to buy in. That's a big difference, because Barack Obama's vision was not to leave 10 million people uncovered. He wanted every single person in this country covered. My plan would do that. Your plan would not.
They do not have to buy in. They do not have to buy in.
You just said that. You just said that 2 minutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. You said they would have to buy in.
Have to buy in. If she qualifies for Medicaid,
are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago?
So the audience were kind of groans, half laughed, half groaned. He said, Did you forget what you said 2 minutes ago? But it was what so many people were saying and thinking at the time. He was the only one brave enough to say it. And what happens, I was reflecting how young he looks compared to the slate of Democratic. This is what Democrats do to their young upstarts. They sideline them for telling the truth.
How young Castro.
No, Castro looks.
I thought you meant Biden.
No.
He's going to look 4 years older this time.
Come on. But no, where Republicans are fostering young talent,
yes,
Democrats are punishing theirs for telling the truth about a compromised candidate. And now we're here.
And now we're here. So we'll see if Joe Biden or anyone at the DNC, I guess, is paying attention and deigns to let the president debate these candidates.
Yeah, Julian Castro, maybe join us on Rising here. We're looking to that conversation.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Yeah. More Rising for you right after this.